science because I thought it was really important we understood what community was and what community development was. That's what I thought they would put in the book in the first place. Okay, interpersonal communication skills. Now you guys have done the communication unit from 003?
Yeah.
Okay. So interpersonal skills are important when working in a community. And examples include verbal and non-verbal communication, the ability to handle conflict, teamwork, empathy. Hello ladies. Just halfway through class, but if you take a seat, I'll get you logged in a while. Okay, so interpersonal communication skills, 1.1. So teamwork, empathy, listening, a positive attitude. I cannot stress how important positive attitude is. And flexibility. These are probably things that anyone who works in community services has to be flexible. You can walk into your service and have a list of things you're going to do that day. Something can blow up. Crisis. Something happens and that goes out the window. So community services workers, one of the skills we need is flexibility and a positive attitude. Has anyone ever kind of been in a workplace where there's someone who's always complaining, always grumpy? Yeah. What happens when people are like that, when they're grumpy and don't participate, exclude themselves, or gossip? It's like a poison that filters through, doesn't it? I learned a long time ago that I don't hang out or associate with people who are negative. Because what happens is they take me down with them. And there's nothing worse. If you've got someone in your workplace who's grumpy and cranky, it rubs off. Everyone else becomes grumpy and cranky. It's like a poison that spreads. So, positive attitude. Doesn't matter how we feel. Doesn't matter what happened to us at home, on the weekend, or that night. You go to work, and if you decline and safe, with a smile on your face, and you're positive. If we go in there really cranky with our clients, what are they going to do? Probably walk out the door and we'll never see them again. Okay, so we've got to be positive. Okay, empathy. All right. Now, empathy is a very important thing, and I'm sure you've talked about it lots of times, but it involves trying to understand someone else's feelings. It's putting yourself in their situation. Okay? It's showing, if you show empathy with your client, you're going to develop a strong relationship. You will build trust. Because the other person will sense that you're trying to understand them rather than judging them. So, for example, when people have suicidal thoughts, they often feel fearful, trapped, and upset. But by attempting to understand those feelings, you may be able to help the person find their way through the distress. So, empathy is about trying to understand someone else's feelings. Okay, now the most important thing you can know as community services workers is the difference between empathy and sympathy. They are two very different things. You guys, have you covered this before?
Yeah, we have this.
You did that in diversity?
No, in yesterday class.
What class is that?
We are just starting.
You only just, it doesn't matter. Okay, all right. So I want you to just understand the difference between sympathy and empathy. Sympathy is feeling sorry for someone. Okay? And the reason, the easy way to remember it is S for sympathy, S for feeling sorry for them. Okay? So it's feeling sorry for the person. Oh, you poor thing. Oh, that must be so. I feel so bad for you. Oh my goodness. You do that to a client and you make it feel worse. It's not about feeling sorry for them. Okay? We don't want that. What we want to do is demonstrate empathy, and it's the attempt at understanding what that other person's going through. Putting yourself in their shoes. Okay? So it's very important we recognise the difference between sympathy and empathy. When we talk about empathy, we also need to listen with empathy. So if we're talking with a client or a community group, the first thing we have to do is give them our full attention without interruptions. Okay? Now, if I was teaching a class and I was coming back and looking at my phone, doing a few messages, scratching my head, tying my shoes, reading a book, what would you think? I'm not interested. I couldn't be bothered being here. You won't see that, I never do that, okay? But you need to give people your full attention. Do not make comments that diminish what the person is feeling. So if a person tells you they're feeling really upset or angry, you don't say, oh, well, that's nothing. You have to acknowledge their feelings. It's not what we're feeling to our clients and communities feel. So we never make comments that put down their feelings. We need to consider how they're feeling and put ourselves in their shoes. We also have to acknowledge the depth of a person's emotions. Now, you'll have different types of clients. You'll have some clients that just don't give you any expression, don't tell you how they're thinking and feeling. You'll have other clients that will be hard on their sleeve and they will tell you everything. Okay, so you've just got to be aware you're going to be dealing with different clients. Regardless, we have to acknowledge those emotions. And we need to let the person know that we're there to help them. I think that's a really simple thing. You assume that your clients know you're there to help them. They don't always know. So it's always good to verbalise it. Okay, all right, now the first video we're going to watch is how empathy works and sympathy can't. Okay, so this is a really good example of the difference between the two. And the next one is that one that I was telling you about, the Empathy Museum. So if you've already seen it, my apologies, but it's definitely worth watching again. Okay, how empathy works and sympathy can't.
You will never procrastinate again once you understand this, because psychologists have recently discovered that the real reason why you procrastinate is not due to laziness or lack of motivation or poor time management. It's all due to this, what I'm about to share with you. So picture this right now. In the present moment, what you do right now, is that determining your next moment, your tomorrow? Yes or no? You bet. But have you ever noticed when you...
Stuff goes wrong for all of us, and at some point, it's our turn again to land in the pit of despair. But it's the conversations that we have whilst we're down there, and how we respond to them, that will determine just how fast we get back out again. Essentially, people will have one of two responses to us when they see us in pain: sympathy or empathy. Take one, the sympathetic response. The problem with sympathy is that it's based on the three things that worsen and prolong the bad situation that the person is in: pity, victim status, and agreement. When we sympathize, we add our own sorrow, fear, annoyance, our pity to the other person's feelings. And whilst they now feel less lonely, being joined by another person confirms that the pit is real and bad. When we treat people like victims, they behave like victims. And agreement just makes the walls of the pit all the more intimidating. Sympathy always ends in the same way, with a bungled rescue attempt, which almost always fails, because deep down, we don't want to be rescued. We want to be right. Okay, everyone. Take two, quiet on set, roll camera, and empathy. When we empathize with someone, we have the power to change the game. By reflecting back the feeling that we see the person having, we show them that they have been understood, deeply understood. By reflecting back their circumstances in plain words, we help them to step back and regain perspective. And importantly, the belief that they can repair their own situation for themselves. When all is said and done, sympathy can actually feel nice for a bit. But when it comes to getting to a solution, only empathy has the power to get someone up and running again. Okay. Take 3.
Okay. I like that video. It's short and sweet and gets to the point, which is always a good thing. All right, let's watch the next one. And this is about the Empathy Museum. I was very excited when I found this video about the Empathy Museum. I've never heard of an Empathy Museum until
In Atlantean times, we knew that everything was mind. The father.
So when people come in, they go, "What's this then?" If you hear people describing what empathy is, quite often people either use the metaphor to walk a mile in someone's shoes or to see the world through someone else's eyes. What if we take that metaphor and we make it literal? The Empathy Museum was born out of a collaboration with myself and a writer, philosopher called Roman Krishnarik. He approached me because he wanted to create an experiential museum. We open a shoe shop where you can come in and you can be fitted with a pair of shoes that actually belong to someone else. You encounter the voice of that person telling you a story about their life.
They're almost a bit suspicious at first, and they stand outside, they're like, oh, what's going on? Suddenly they come into this box, and they feel quite connected to it, and the people in it.
And you can take a walk in that person's shoes. And the intimacy of having someone talking to you while you're wearing their shoes, and that you're alone, and that you're on a physical journey. And it's strangely powerful.
I was really inspired by my mother putting on her makeup when I was a kid. I used to watch my mum put her makeup on, and she used to do it really quite quickly. So I've always kind of adopted this notion of, like, you know, putting on drag shouldn't take any more than 20 minutes.
I work with human rights and public security in my country. I think empathy is the most difficult thing to provide, something that you have and this experience to be under people's shoe is, I think, the most this is, I think, the only way for you to feel how other people are, how other people feel. I think human rights is about to connect to other people, to recognize me in other people, and to, you know, the same humanity that we have.
This is a new project with 1,001 books. These are everybody's favourite books on the shelf here, and they've donated them through a crowdsourcing fund, and we've covered them so that you can't judge the book by its cover. They've written their own feelings or statements, comments about the book, and you engage in these statements, and if you feel like you're having a little moment with one of them, or one of them jump out to you, or you can relate to one of them, then you choose that book, that statement.
I read this book in 36 hours straight whilst at university, skipping a whole day of classes because I couldn't put it down. Rarely have I been taken over so completely by a book. I love the feeling, and I wish the same will happen to everyone who reads it. It's a really good pitch, isn't it? And then I kind of opened it, and I recognise the title. It's one of those sort of heavy-handed classics that I would not normally pick up. But that was Chris with a K, whoever he is, or she, has got me.
Each book has a number, and we have a website where you can then go on and see who's been reading the book that you donated. You say what you did with it, so you can give it to a friend or a stranger, or as it says on the wall there, you can leave it on a park bench for someone else to find. And people get a bit worried sometimes and say, well, what if it's raining? And I say, you could wrap it in cling film we are social people, we are empathetic people, and we just need a chance to encounter that in our everyday lives. I think it's kind of needed, especially at the moment in terms of what's happening in the world.
It made me, anyway, I don't know if it works for other people, but it made me really like other people.
If people can just think about others and know what it's like to walk in someone else's shoes, then the world will be such a simple and much better place. Yes, that's what empathy is, isn't it?
Okay, so pretty good example there of empathy in a museum.
Men often ask why as a leading university neurologist.
Sorry, I've just got a new software system here. I'm just trying to get it around. Okay, let's go back to where we were. Okay, so we've just watched a couple of videos about how empathy works and Cynthia Buchanan and the Empathy Museum. So empathy is really about understanding what it's like for another person. Putting yourself in their situation, how they think and feel, and what's happening to them. Okay, let's move on. Questioning skills. Okay, okay, questioning skills. So you guys would have been doing a lot of questioning, a lot of practice around questioning. You've done a lot of role plays. Yeah. Know the difference between open questions and closed questions? Good. Okay. So questioning provides the opportunity to find out more and allows the development of conversation. So questioning skills include asking questions often, considering your audience. It's very important that you take into account who you're communicating with. Okay, my previous role was the CEO of a community-based service, and the way I spoke and worked with, for example, the board of management is very different to the way I communicated with clients. So I always adapt my communication depending on who I'm talking to. So you always need to consider your audience. You have to make sure the timing is right. You have to ask the right questions at the right time, and you need to be specific. And most importantly, you need to listen carefully to any answers. It's no use asking someone a question and then not listening to what they're saying and having your mind somewhere else. Okay, types of questions for different purposes. Okay, so I know that we talked previously about open and closed questions, probing questions. Now we're going to look at types for different purposes. The first one is factual questions. An example of that is, what is the capital of Australia? It's a fact. Okay, does anyone know the capital of Australia? Canberra. Pardon? Canberra. Good. Everyone wants to say Sydney. From Melbourne and by the AFL, you want to say Melbourne, but you're right, it's Canberra. That's fact. Okay. The next type of question is a convergent question. And these are questions that require the person you're asking to apply logic or reasoning. Okay, so if we talk about a convergent question, it would be something like, how do you calculate the area of a circle? Another convergent question might be, add these numbers up. What answer do you get? Okay? So it's really about logic and reasoning when we're talking about convergent questions. The next one's slightly different, divergent. Okay, we've got convergent, now we've got divergent. And these are questions that encourage creativity or exploration of different options and answers and possibilities. So an example would be, what would you do if you won the lottery? What would you do if you won tickets to Taylor Swift? Oh, if you'd like tickets to Taylor Swift, I definitely would. Okay, so this is about, when we're talking about divergent questions, it's about exploration of different possibilities. Okay, what would you do if you won $1 million? Many things. Anyone else? What would you do? Travel the world. I'm with you. I'd be doing that.
Yeah, that's I don't know.
You don't know? Well, no one would have any university fee debts. Everyone's debts would be paid. If I won $1 million, I would probably open up a refuge for women and children and family and domestic violence on 100 acres in the bush. That's something I would like to do. But, you know, that's the kind of divergent question. It's exploration. It's asking about opportunities and possibilities. Okay, and then the next one is an evaluative question. And it's self-explanatory. It's about evaluating. Okay, so an evaluative question might be, do you think social media is good or bad for society? That's an evaluation question. Yeah. Another question might be, do you think gaming encourages aggression and violence in children?
Not sure.
Pardon?
I would say no.
You would say no. Yeah. Okay. That's an evaluation. You've made the evaluation of no. Other people might evaluate and say yes, but it's a personal evaluation. So that's an evaluative question. And then sometimes you have combination questions. Okay, and they often ask for an opinion or a judgment, such as, what's your favourite movie and why? Could be something, who is your favourite singer and why? You're not only asking a question, but you're asking them to explain and justify their answer. So, we've got more than just open and closed questions and probing questions. Factual questions, convergent, divergent, evaluative, and combination. We ask different questions for different reasons. Okay? Alright, then we have our wonderful open, closed, and probing questions. So this should just be a refresher for you guys. You know what this is, okay? Open questions are questions that are likely to receive long answers that provide information or opinions. Closed questions, as they speak, are questions that are relatively short answers, confirm or deny something. Do you like class? Yes or no? Okay. Probing questions. I love probing questions, particularly when I'm working with clients, because it allows me to get to the bottom of a matter really quickly. If there's an issue, I need to know. Okay? Especially when we're working with vulnerable clients. So I have to ask the right questions to find out very quickly what's going on. Then we have leading questions, and they're helpful in helping someone who's undecided. They don't know what they're going to do, but a leading question will help them make the right decision. So usually we'll use these when ethical dilemmas come up. Okay, so we'll use a leading question. Could be something like, you've got a client who smokes cigarettes. Okay, they have a history of smoking cigarettes all their life. They're getting older, they're now starting to get dementia, and they kind of want to give up, but they're not sure. So you might ask some questions about what would be the benefits of stopping smoking. Health, money, safety, that type of thing. So what you're doing there is leading the question to help them come to the right decision. Okay, then we have active listening. Okay, so you guys have heard of active listening? Okay, we've got ears, we all listen, but do we actively listen? Okay, so it's a way of listening that focuses entirely on what the client's saying. You're not looking out the window, you're not playing with your phone, you're not having a conversation with someone there, you're not giving that person with undivided attention. You're listening exactly what they're saying. And the idea of active listening is you want to confirm that the content of the message and the emotions and feelings are accurate. Okay, so you want to make sure that what they're saying is how they're thinking and feeling. Clients don't always tell the truth. And clients can actually lie a lot. And they do that for a variety of reasons. And that could be because they may be fearful that they're going to get in trouble with the police. They might be fearful that their violent partner might find out where they are. drugs and alcohol, classic example. One of the roles I have, because I think it's very important if I'm a teacher, that I'm coached. Okay, so I have quite a few different roles, but one of them is I go out and do drug and alcohol testing in rural properties, big farms, big machineries, because I live out in the country. We go out and we test the staff because they can't be handling massive pieces of machine if they're under the influence of drugs and alcohol. So quite often you test them through urine, sometimes blood. Some of them will come back that they are under the influence or they have drugs and alcohol in their system. So then my role is to do some brief intervention with them. Generally the first thing I'll do is an assessment. So I need to determine how much drugs and alcohol they're taking. The problem with doing assessments around drugs and alcohol is to be the truth. You know, you might find that you start a conversation with them and they say, yeah, I smoke a bit of weed, I smoke pot, you know, I'll have a joint or a bong, whatever they have, you know, a couple of times a week. Talk a little bit more, ask the right questions. Suddenly you find out they're smoking all day, every day before work. They're also using cocaine and they're also using other things, okay? So it's very much about listening, asking the right questions and making sure what they're telling you corresponds to the way they behave. Active listening, it doesn't require agreement, but it's basically that the listener understands what's being said. So it's about paraphrasing, checking your understanding. So it's very useful in emotional situations where understanding is critical, consensus and clarity are desired, and trust is sought. So when you look at active listening, it's about paying attention, looking at who is talking, not talking. Don't talk over the top of people into them. Let them tell their story. Asking the right questions, following directions, and sometimes even just visualising what's being said. Okay, everyone stand up. Let's do a quick activity. Stand up. This is what we do. You don't sit on your bottom all day in my class, all right? Okay, I want you to find a partner that you're not sitting next to. Okay, all right, find a partner. Anyone, but not someone you're sitting next to. So you two can't be partners. Neither can you two guys. Neither can you two lovely young ladies. Perfect. All right. Okay. Yep. Okay. I want you and your partner to get 2 chairs. And I want you to start by putting them back to back. You and your partner, back to back chairs. Who's your partner? Yep. Okay, if you haven't got enough room, move out to the centre. Yeah, back to back. That's it, perfect. Sit down, back to back. Good. Okay, excellent. All right, now we're going to try communicating without looking at each other. And we're going to see how hard it is. So, for the next 30 seconds, I want you both to talk about something that interests you at the same time. Think about something that you're passionate about. What did you do on the weekend? Where did you go for Christmas? I love, you know, what movie you last saw. What are you reading? What are you watching on television? Okay, go. Both at the same time. Don't look at each other. You cannot turn around. Go. Okay. Talk to each other. At the same time.
What's your favorite?
At the same time. I need 2 voices going. 2 voices going. 2 voices. Ah, good. And just head back here.
Oh. Yeah. Do you love singing?
At the same time. Talk.
I love singing and listening to music because it can lessen my stress and anxiety.
Talk.
So that's the thing.
Music?
What else? Like, do you like traveling? Do you like traveling?
Honestly?
Okay, let's stop. Everyone's face the front. Okay. What did you notice about that activity?
It's so weird not looking.
It's so weird. What? Keep going. Tell me.
It's not looking to her
Not
face.
looking at the person. Now, I saw you. You just kept wanting to turn. You came so close to turning around because it was uncomfortable. Yeah? Okay, what else did people notice?
Yeah, it's so hard. Like you're talking between each other, and there's no eye contact, and you can easily recognize the expression of the
So
person
you don't
you are
always
talking
know
with.
what's being
Yeah.
said. People can talk, but you need to check their body language to check if it's actually true, corresponds. So we identified that it's very difficult to hold a conversation when you're not looking at the person. Correct? Okay. We're going to keep going. We're going to do a different activity this time. Okay, everyone stand up. All right, now we've got two pairs. So I want these two pairs together, these two pairs together. I want one person of your pair to sit on the ground next to the person standing. Okay. Okay. You and you are going to face each other. You go on the ground. Okay. All right. You, okay, you're going to sit or stand? You're going to both get a turn. Well, you guys make a decision. No, I don't need to make decisions for everybody.
Okay,
All set? Go, stick up. You stand, you sit next to him on the ground. Okay, you come and sit next to this person on the ground. Sorry. You go closer. Okay, now, people are standing. I want you to face your partner. Okay, you two are together. You two are together. Okay, all right. You can sit on a chair if it's more comfortable. Okay, I just want the feeling of low. Okay, now the person sitting down, you are a young child, and you are trying to get the attention of the adult. You can't stand up, can't push them over, can't pull their pants down, nothing like that. Okay. Believe me, it happens in Australia sometimes. Or a wedgie. Anyone know that? All right, okay, so the two adults who are standing are going to have a very intense conversation about whatever. The people on the ground, you are young children, and you are trying to get the attention of the person standing. They're going to ignore you because they're so engrossed in this conversation. Let's go. Stop. Hey, try and get his attention. Try and get her attention. How are you getting his attention? Pull his chest. Tap him.
Just give me a second.
Keep talking. Good. Keep trying to get his attention.
Just wait.
Just try and get his attention. Okay, stop. All right, reverse. The other person who is sitting now stands, the other person sits. Okay, this time you two are talking to each other. You have a very important conversation to have, very important. You sit. You guys are now having a wonderful conversation about the dress you're going to wear to the Melbourne Cup next month. I don't know, you have a conversation about whatever. Those that are on the ground are trying to get the attention of the person standing. The person standing is so engrossed in their conversation. They're ignoring you. Off you go. Try and get their attention.
What's your plan for this weekend?
Sure. Just keep on and have your conversation is way more important than those other
Plan for this weekend. Do you have any plans for this weekend? Working?
You are losing your
Do you know any job hiring now? Because I'm looking for
All right, you guys don't talk much. Okay, let's stop. All right. Make yourself comfortable. Sit or stand. Let's face the front. Okay, now that's a classic example of what happens when you're ignored. Now, when you were down on the floor and you were a child trying to get the attention of the adult with no success, how did you feel? Ignored? Ignored? Unvalued. Very good. Unvalued, yeah? What else do people feel?
Very good.
Terrible.
useless.
Useless. Hear all these words? Unvalued, ignored, useless. This is what happens when we don't communicate with people and we ignore others. Okay, classic example. I want you to hold on to those feelings because I want you to think, wow, how would my clients feel if I did this to them? You've experienced it yourself. Undervalued, unloved, ignored. Last activity with your partner. This time, face each other sitting on chairs. so face each other. Okay. Reasonably close together. Yep. Okay. Right, so if you guys can sit face to face, yeah, rather than on the side, I want that's good. Well done. Okay, this time you're going to both talk at the same time. At the same time, you both have something really important to say. It could be about your Christmas holiday. It could be what you're looking forward to for lunch. It could be, oh my God, I can't wait to get out of this place. Whatever. But I want you to both have a conversation at the same time. Off you go. I want to hear lots of talking. Talk, 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 talk. Doesn't matter about what, anything. Just talk at the same time. Talk, 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 talk. Talk about cricket. How long we can talk about cricket all day? I could anyway. Keep talking. Excellent. I don't want to hear any breaks. I just want constant talk. Oh, just make something up. Read a book, okay? Read a passage from your book. If you can't find something to talk about, you read. Read to each other at the same time. No, different things. Okay? Just read something. Or talk.
Annual cooperative process and reflection. This unit applies to workers in both work and community sector and community context.
Oh, okay. Now, what and how did you feel when that was happening? You felt like you were interrupting because you were talking over someone. Yes, good, good.
Disturbing.
Did you know what the other person was talking about?
No.
It's very hard to understand when there's two lots of conversations going. You going to say something?
Yeah, it will disturb.
Pardon?
Disturbing each other.
Disturbing, yeah. Interrupting, disturbing. And people don't know what you're actually saying. So that's just a classic example of how our clients can feel if we don't demonstrate those active listening skills. Okay, everyone back to their desks. Let's keep going. Well done. Thank you for participating.
Himad, can I get one?
All right.
For my friend.
It's past 12, so we've got 20 minutes to get through a little bit more learning content. We had a late start, so I have skipped a couple of videos. Okay, so when we're communicating with our clients, what we need to do is reflect the feeling and content. We need to check that we understand what they're saying. Okay, now we had a couple of examples of how hard that can be if you're not actually listening. So reflection of feeling and reflection of content are two skills that help the client to feel understood and listened to. Okay, so reflection of feelings is a brief statement that connects the client's emotions to the content. I can see that you're really angry. I can see that you must be really upset. Okay, you're reflecting their feelings. Reflection of content is a little bit different. So feelings is about their emotions. Content is the main points or themes of the client's message. If I asked you to read page 10, I'm not going to, but you don't have to. I'm just using this as an example. And I asked for a summary of it, you would have to briefly read it, but pick out the main points, wouldn't you? This is what reflection of content is. Okay, you're not going to recite the whole conversation you had with the client. You're not going to remember it for starters, and quite often it's very long and lengthy. But you need to summarise the main points or themes. And it helps you focus in the situation and clarify the client's perspective. We need to make sure that we understand our clients and what their message is, what their issues are. Okay, so reflecting feeling and content, two different things. What are we, if we're talking about reflecting feelings, what are we looking at or reflecting on? Clients' what? Emotions, well done. If we're looking at content, what are we trying to do? If we're reflecting content. The main message, the main points. Good, good. Okay, so we've got reflection of feeling and content. And we also have paraphrasing. Now, you guys have all heard about paraphrasing? It's basically saying the same thing to the client in slightly different words. And that's checking your understanding and checking that the client's message is what they mean to say. So, collection of feeling and content, paraphrasing can all be used when we're working with clients. But these things take practice. It's not a skill you're going to pick up in an hour or a day or in one class. Paraphrasing, reflection are skills that take time, and once you're working in the field and in industry, you're doing it every day, so you'll hone those skills. Okay, body language. All right. That is the unconscious and conscious transmission and interpretation of feelings, attitudes, and moods through body posture, movement, physical state, position, relationship to the bodies, etc., etc. Okay, let's look at the body language in these two people. Tell me, what do you see?
Attitude.
Attitude. Why? Why did you come to that conclusion?
They don't want to talk to each other.
They look cranky, don't they?
Yeah.
Arms closed. As soon as you see arms closed, that's a really good indication that they're closed off. Okay? What else can you see? They look very competitive. They look competitive. Now, how did you come to that conclusion? Is it the facial expressions? Is it the stance of the body? The eyeballing? Yeah, no one's smiling, but they're looking at each other. They're looking at each other and they look like they've got their chins. Okay. This is what you'll learn to use when you're working with clients. Remember, I said clients don't always tell the truth. They could be saying something to you with a smile on their face, but in the meantime, their body's closed, they're all tense, their hands and fists are clenched. It doesn't correspond. What they're saying and their body language doesn't match. Something's not right. That's where we pick up. Okay. All right. I look at students' body language all the time. I am constantly watching you in a class. Why do you think I might do that? Why would I be checking your body language and what we're doing? To find out where it's at. Oh, that's exactly right. And you know what? If I start seeing people looking out the window, doodling, falling asleep, I know something's wrong. I need to move you. And that's why I say, right, get up, we're going. And we'll do something. But I'm constantly looking at your body language to determine whether you're engaged or not. I don't know what other classes are like. Every teacher is different, but that's something I'm constantly looking at. Always checking for the attentiveness of the class. And if people start falling asleep, something's not right. So I have to do something about it. But I'm interpreting that. I'm watching you and I'm making a conscious decision about the way I think you're engaging with you. Okay? All right, body language. Okay. I just want to show you a video. All right, this is a clip. This just flows on nicely. Okay, this goes for 5 minutes. It's a fun guide to verbal and non-verbal communication. Sorry,
Hi, I'm Dr. York. Not that kind of doctor. I'm a doctor of communication. Did you know only 7% of communication is the words that we say? That means 93% of communication is nonverbal communication. For example, gestures mean a lot. The most open thing you could possibly do is show the palms of your hands. Now, speaking of hands, let's talk about handshakes. What do you need
sorry guys, as I said, I'm still struggling with this new system.
Rule number 2, don't be a bone crusher. Rule number 3, don't be a weakling. Also, gentlemen, please be sure to shake a woman's hand the same way you would shake a man's hand. So if you're someone fancy, like the president, and you take a number of pictures, make sure you're on the camera, the audience side, left side. So when you shake someone's hand, your hand is on top. It makes you look more powerful for those pictures. But you can't always be on that side. So if you are on the wrong side, there's some defensive measures, like this one, the wrap. Or a second defensive measure is you pull them toward yourself so no one's hand is on top. People like good-looking people, and clothes say a lot about a personality. For example, always wear traditional clothing. Blues, blacks, grays, even a pop of red are fantastic. Stay away from the neon green colors. For example, during a job interview, you want to stay away from a neon green tie because the interviewer will be paying more attention to your tie than what you have to say. Nonverbal communication can also show that we're listening. Isn't that right?
Absolutely, Dr. York. In fact,
Thank you. So, if you are speaking to someone, if you're currently talking, you should be looking at the other person in the eye about 60 to 70% of the time. On the other hand, if you are listening to someone, increase that to about 90% of the time to show engagement, to show that you're listening. Also, be sure that you're not looking around the room looking to trade up in the conversation. Nonverbal communication can also help you detect lies. Look for things like too much eye contact, hiding behind barriers, or stiff body movements. But make sure you are getting a baseline for the individual, what they usually do, to make sure they aren't lying or there's just nervous energy. Actually, college students and police officers somewhat have the exact same ratio of detecting lies. So next time you are interrogating someone, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. As a professor of communication, I'm usually aware of my students' feelings. And there are 7 universal micro-expressions that everyone has, whether they're from St. Louis, Missouri, Tokyo, or Mongolia. And I'm about to show you all 7 of these expressions while doing something fun, messing with students. Class, I'd like to remind you that I've canceled the final exam. However, to make up for those missed points, we're going to have an exam today. Sean, thank you so much for joining us. Here's your surprise exam. And since Sean didn't make it a priority to be on time today, I'm doubling the points on this exam. And here's where it gets fun. I don't even like tuna. Yeah, those look like a big F. Here's a tip for interviewing on air or for a job interview. Have you ever played the lava game as a child? Pretend the back half of your chair is lava. This will force you to either sit up straight or lean forward, looking engaged. My research shows that you can increase memory recall by 22% just through nonverbal communication. One of those steps, is getting rid of all the barriers. You don't need those anyway. Sorry, buddy. Would you believe me if I told you that you can increase your own confidence through nonverbal communication? Simply the Superman pose. So, if you do the Superman pose for just 2 minutes, your testosterone levels increase and your cortisol levels decrease, which manages stress. Everyone do the Superman pose. So remember, the podium is kryptonite. Do the Superman pose once a day and keep the kryptonite away. So as you can tell, communication is a powerful tool. It's not just what we say that's important. Everything from gestures to handshaking to micro-expressions to lie detection to how we dress. Everything says something to everyone. You're speaking volumes to everyone around you, even when you don't say a word. Because I'm happy if you feel.
Okay, alright, so
psychologists have discovered that procrastination.
alright, so that is a classic example of some non-verbal communications. Okay, shake your hand with your partner. Turn around, shake hands. Shake your hands. All right, describe the handshakes. Yours look firm. Did it feel firm? Yeah. How was yours? A bit floppy? A bit loose? Yes. Okay, what about you guys? How did you describe your handshake? Is that a handshake? Or is that holding hands?
That's what it looks like.
Okay, that's good. All right, what about you guys? Describe your handshake.
Strong.
Strong. Okay. So we had quite a range here. We had strong one over here, floppy, hand holding. Okay. All right. Okay. Go and shake hands with someone else in the room. Someone else in the room. Go and shake hands. Oh. Do that again and show me. All right. Can we toughen that up a bit, make it a bit stronger? Especially from you. Okay? You've got to have a strong handshake. Women are the same. Okay? Set it there. It doesn't matter whether you're shaking a man's hand or a woman's hand. You shake their hand the same way. The worst handshakes I ever had were sweaty palms. Sweaty palms. And it's like, but if someone comes up and goes, I just think, you know what, if I blew on you, you'd fall over. I want a strong handshake. Okay? Right, let's get going. Where are we? Alright, so I want you to consider your handshake. I want you to consider okay, so body language. It's also about how we position our body. Okay, one of the things that I find extremely frustrating is when I'm working with senior men in management and they'll sit like this. Anybody ever seen that? Be warned, guys, don't do it. Okay? Because I see something like that and I immediately think, I have first impressions count. First impressions count. So the way you position your body is important. Some people are quite. Think about your personal bubble space. Now, I don't know you guys. Okay, we spent a couple of hours together. How do you feel if I come right up like this? Get out of my face. That's exactly right. Because everyone has a bubble around them. Now, if you knew me really well, like you two, quite close, you sit close, so it shows me that you have a relationship. You know each other well. Okay, but if you're a stranger and you come up and you stand in someone's face, the automatic reaction is people will step away. It's intimidating. It's confronting. It's like, get out of my space. So just be aware of your body and your space, which is makes it so closest to the space between others. Your facial expressions. Okay, as I said, I read facial expressions all the time in the classroom. How our eyes move and focus, and how our bodies connect with non-bodily things. It's a bit strange. It's a strange comment. But basically, it's about, remember the gentleman said with your chair, that you have to think of this as a lava volcano. So you either sit up straight and don't touch it. You're not like this. Sitting up straight. Tell me what you think. This or this? Yeah. Big difference. And that's how I'm interacting with Jen. It's the same with your pens. If you're sitting there doodling, drawing pretty flowers, trees, whatever, you're not taking account of what's happening. So, it's how we connect with other things, the chair, the table, the things on our desk. Computers. Is anyone a computer puncher who goes bash, 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 bash? Does anyone have anyone when they're using their keyboard, are they really loud or are they gentle? Think about it. When you're on your phone, tap, 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 tap. It's how you interact. I am a basher. When I am working on my computer, I type really fast, but I bash. People will probably hear me in the next room. And that's how I am. And that's something I have to be aware of. It's the same with the phone. Slow down, settle down. But that's our connection with other bodily, non-bodily things. Okay, so what does body language not include? Pace, pitch, intonation, volume, variation in pauses. I personally tend to speak fast. I have to constantly remind myself to slow down. That's the type of person I am. I know because I've lived in this body for many, many years. So I have to often make sure that I slow down, particularly if I'm speaking in public, at a conference or something like that. If I'm presenting, I have to slow my voice down. Pauses. It's one thing that everyone hates. If you're having a conversation and there's a pause, there's a gap in the conversation, just think of it as a breath. Nobody's talking. What we want to do, tend to do, is jump in and quickly fill that pause with words. But we don't have to. There's nothing wrong with having a pause, having a break in the conversation, and allowing people to think and reflect on what we're saying. Voice type. Okay, so everyone has their own unique voice, and other audible signals. And then things like breathing and heartbeat. Has anyone ever been in a situation where they've had to speak in public? Okay, so good example. Okay, so you've all done some kind of assessment where you had to stand up and present in class. How did you feel? Nervous, yes. Any others? Any other thoughts? Some people are quite comfortable doing it and confident. Other people get really nervous. They get butterflies in their stomach. They get anxious. Their heart starts beating faster. They start sweating. Okay, so these are all things that aren't body language, but still tell us a lot of what's going on. I know I get really nervous when I'm talking to a big group of people. I present sometimes at conferences, and there's often 1,000, 2,000 people in the room. I'm kidding myself before I go in there. I'm so nervous, and my heart's beating. I've got butterflies in my stomach, so I have to kind of manage them. Okay, then we have group work. Now, unfortunately, there used to be a core unit in your course about group work, and it's probably another one of my favourites. I think that's an area that this course misses, okay, because you're going to be working with a lot of groups. In community development, you work with individuals, groups, and community. Okay, counselling, individuals. This particular one is around group work, and when you're doing community development, it's not uncommon to bring a group of people together and you're facilitating a meeting. You've got to find out what the issues are. So when you're doing group work or group activities and group sessions, it's what we talked about before. You need to adapt your communication to meet the audience. The way I talk to CEOs and managers is different to the way I would talk with homeless youth. The way I dress when I'm meeting with bigwigs is very formal. Yeah. I've got the business suit on, I've got the stockings, the high heels, everything's perfect. If I turned up and looked like that when I was working with young homeless people, what do you think they might do? They saw me turn up in a suit, high heels. Homeless young people, what are they going to say? What are they going to do? Run away. They're going to look at me and think, who is that bureaucrat? If I talk to her, she might put me in jail. They're not going to talk to me. When I work with young people, I used to work in this lovely program called Reconnect. And it was primarily working with homeless young people. And when I worked with, well, basically I changed the way I dressed. Okay? I was in jeans and a singlet. That's how I dressed when I was working with people. Business suit went, high heels went, I'm in jeans, boots, and a shirt. Because I have to adapt to my audience. Now, by doing that, they immediately feel more comfortable with me. Okay, so when we're looking at group work, there's a number of things we need to do. Sorry, I've lost that next. Okay, we need to protect individual confidentiality. Okay, Now, confidentiality is something you guys would have talked about lots and lots of times. We do know there is some limits to confidentiality, don't we? Anyone know what that might be? The limits to confidentiality. Okay, we tell our clients that everything will remain confidential, but there are some times that we have to reach that. You guys know what that are? It's when the client is exposed to risk. Self-harm. Self-harm or harm of others. The other things is you might be subpoenaed by the court to provide case documents. Okay, so generally the only breaches to confidentiality is about harm. Self-harm or harm to others. Okay, so you always protect confidentiality unless there's a reason for not doing that. You need to look at the group dynamics. Now you guys have been in the same class, what, for a year and a half? You guys are a functioning group. You've got to know each other. Think about when you first started. You didn't know anyone in your class, did you? You might know one or two, but probably didn't know anyone. How did you feel when you first started? You walked into your classroom and people you didn't know. It's daunting at first, uncomfortable at first, but then you all got to know each other. And you've been working together now as a class for a year and a half, so your group dynamics have changed. So there's different stages of group dynamics. And you always have to check where your group's at. If you've got a brand new group, they're in what's called the forming stage. Forming, storming, and warming. Yes. Alright, but you need to be aware of the group you're working with and where they're at. Okay, are they brand new? Do they know each other? Or have they been working together for years? You need to maintain a safe environment. That's really important. Establish group rules. Okay, so one of the things we did this morning was talk about the class code of conduct and the behaviours we're expecting in this class. You need to stick to the topic. Okay, there's nothing worse than someone running a meeting and they go off on a tangent and start talking about something that's totally irrelevant. Timekeeping. Okay, if you've got a meeting that starts at 11 o'clock and you've got community members coming, you start at 11 o'clock. You tell them it's finishing at 12, you finish at 12. You need to encourage enthusiasm. It's about that positivity that we talked about and encourage motivation. And unfortunately, when you have some groups, you will find that there are some people who behave inappropriately. Has anyone a class clown at school? No? No class clowns? Alright. So, inappropriate behaviour, as the facilitator of the group, you need to keep a check of that. Okay, working with individuals and groups. Okay, now we know that our clients, we're generally working with vulnerable clients. They're experiencing things that affect the quality of their life. Poverty is a classic example. Okay, lack of education, lack of access to opportunities. In a rural area, for me, one of the issues I have is we find it very difficult to get to see a doctor. In rural areas, there's limited doctors and nurses, health facilities and health services. So that affects the quality of a lot of people's lives because they're not getting the health care they need. So when we're looking at client needs and developing strategies to support them, we need to take into account what's happening for our clients. Is there drug and alcohol addiction? Is there poverty? Is there family and domestic violence? Is there a history of self-harm or suicide? And so we need to know what's going on for our clients and build our strategies around that. Okay. Alright. The thing about community development, it's about involving the community. Okay, remember we talked about that at the very beginning. So it's important to consider our clients and the type of involvement they want in the project. Some people want to jump in and help. Very keen, very enthusiastic. Other people will say, oh, no, that's not for me, and step back. Okay? And you're going to get differences. What you need to do is take that into account, encourage people to interact, but then accept that they only want to do a certain thing or work at a certain level. You can't force people to participate. Okay? Okay, so we're getting close now to the end. As I mentioned, we went through the assessment requirements this morning. Okay, we had 3 assessments. First one is questions. Assessment 2 is case study questions. Assessment 3 is observation. But the first thing you need to do is your assessment plan and agreement form. Okay? It takes 10 minutes. But I cannot allow that you can't pass the unit until you do that. Okay. Right, so before next week, I do this in every class. I give you options and what you must do. Okay? Option, if you choose to, you can read your learner guide, pages, topic 1, page 5 to 13. Now, what I would say is everything in the learner guide we have covered in class. So for me, that's very much about if you're missing a class or you can't stay for the whole class. You guys have a bit of catch up to do, but you missed the intro, which isn't in the book. Okay? But I will share those slides. The next thing you need to do is your assessment plan and agreement form by the end of next week. Okay? Sunday at midnight. So that brings us to the end of our first session in community development. Does anyone have any comments or questions? No? Okay. Right, let's sum up. Before we leave the room for lunch, we will go to lunch. You head to 1 o'clock. 12 to 1, 1 o'clock on the dot, we start our new unit. Very important. Okay? We're doing advocacy. So we've got to kind of separate these 2 units because they've got different assessments. Community development in the morning, advocacy and representation in the afternoon. Okay, before we go for lunch, I want you to share one thing that you have learnt in today's class. Go. One thing you've learnt. This is my test to see whether I'm doing a good job. One thing you've learnt today.
Body language.
Body language. How important is it? Good, excellent.
Discipline.
Pardon? Discipline? Yes, okay, good, excellent. All right, what about over here? One thing you've taken from today's class?
I think I've really learned is how important it is that communities for me.
Yes, good. The benefits of being involved in the community. Great, excellent, that's good. What about you? Yes, what have you learned about community development? Yeah. What is it? What is community development? It's a collective action. A group of people working together for what? Change. Good. Okay, you 2 ladies, you've only caught the last end, but what have you learned in the last session? Active learning or active listening? Active listening. What about active listening? What have you learned about it? Good. And those exercises helped? Good. Excellent. What did you learn today? Ah, that's okay. You can say the same thing. Body language. Excellent. Okay, over here. What have we learned from this morning? One thing.
Learning activity in class and body language in the
good. Body language. Okay. How important communication is. What about you? One thing.
I learned how to communicate properly with your client through sympathizing and empathizing.
Okay, so you understand now the difference between empathy and sympathy. So what do we do with our clients? Do we show sympathy or empathy? Pardon?
Sympathy and empathy.
Empathy. We don't normally show sympathy.
Yeah.
It's empathy. It's about understanding what it's like. Okay, well done everyone. Go and have a lunch break.